Growing up as a tomboy, I was bullied by other boys for my appearance, for my behavior, for my personality. And it's just that, my personality, it's not my gender. I'm a woman, I'm a proud woman. Until this day, people are bullying me and telling me that I want to be a man, or I think that I'm a man, or I wish I would transition, or all that. Now, I am proud of myself. I'm so lucky I was able to grow up in my family where supported me for being who I am, and I was not I didn't broke down to the pressure from a therapist as well to transition. And I'm here to speak up for these tomboys who are going through this right now as young girls, young masculine girls, to stand up for themselves. There's nothing wrong with them, gay, straight, whatever. You can be a tomboy and you can grow up to be this amazing woman that people respect and adore.
When a woman criticizes trans ideology, often the first insult against her is that she isn't woman-like. This is nothing new. Political cartoons often drew suffragettes as unflattering, ugly old maids in an effort to drive a wedge between the women who still found themselves valuing and being valued for beauty. Beauty is a currency that women have long been forced to use to assert value, alongside reproductive ability and domestic labor. However, one would think that as a movement which builds itself on being progressive, which often argues that appearance has nothing to do with anything else, and that caring about appearance, such as one's sex, weight, or other attributes, especially in a romantic or sexual partner, is bigoted, would refrain from making digs at a woman's appearance when she criticizes it. Often, these women are accused of being trans themselves and self-hating, especially if they are gender nonconforming, either in appearance or in their sexuality. This targeting of women based on their nonconformity highlights how similar trans rights activism is with traditional homophobia and misogyny.
Masculine women are not attractive, and it's an asinine concept that modern day women think it's okay to be masculine. That's why when I gave you the example, if I wear a dress and heels and walk up to you and say, let's go on a date, oh, by the way, I'll be masculine if I find a feminine woman. That's what it sounds like when a masculine woman comes up and says, well, I can be feminine, I just need a masculine man to get me a point. Why should a man have to do that? You should naturally be feminine, but it's just a ridiculous concept that women think that they should be accepted as how they are, as if they don't have to self-improve. No, men have to self-improve, women also have to self-improve, and you have to be feminine. If you're a masculine, it's okay. You can be a career woman, you can be dominant, you can be assertive, but the consequence of that is most men are not going to tolerate. They just won't say it, because if they say it, it's considered misogynistic. A lot of you guys gave me crazy faces when I said that, but this is what men are thinking. They can't say this though, because you get canceled for speaking like this.
Though the movement tries to brand this as being progressive and freeing. In a movement which argues that gender is a box one can freely choose, why are gender nonconforming women so often the target of harassment and abuse, not just by trans-identified men, but trans-identified women as well? Easy. Gender nonconforming women are proof of the misogyny of trans ideology, which posits that femininity maketh a woman, and that if one does not perform femininity well enough, then one is not a woman. As despite being told that we are defective, despite being judged by all the negatives of masculinity because we dare to reject what is expected of us because of our sex, we remain female and do not wish to be anything else.
Butch for me is nothing to do with being masculine. It's actually something about being really feminine, about identifying as a woman. Butch is also for me about how I am perceived as I walk through the world. I'm punished every single day for being, as the great Hannah Gadsby says in The Net, an incorrect woman, and I'm punished every single day for that. And so for me, being Butch is also about how I survive that in the world, how that makes me strong. And I think it's really important to say, you know, lots of people think Butch is synonymous with masculine. For me, it really isn't, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we all, our lives, they all revolve around around masculinity. We live in a patriarchy. We have no choice, whether we like it or not. Everything is about masculinity, and I refuse to accept that. I refuse to say that my identity is also about masculinity. It's not. There are lots of different types of women in the world, and I want to fight for the right for there to be lots of different women in the world. You know, when lots of people say to me, oh, why do you want to look like a man? I really want to ask them the question, why is it so hard for you to see me as a woman?
Masculine women who are secure in their identity as females are further proof of the fact that sex and personality are different traits, and are subject to the ire of both trans-identified males and females as a result. Often, gender nonconforming women, and especially those who are lesbians, are faced with pressure to conform to femininity or to identify as male. They are referred to in the trans community as being eggs waiting to crack, a term referring to a trans person who is yet to identify as such. And it is interesting that trans identification is so often attributed unwillingly to gender nonconforming women, considering how trans activists argue that you can't assume gender by a person's appearance, that misgendering is violence, and that everyone is their own authority on their gender. It also further supports the unsaid definition of gender by trans rights activists. Clothes equal gender. Many gender nonconforming women transition due to the pressures of misogyny and lesbophobia, both of which are used to present the idea that gender nonconformity, from clothing to sexuality, negates a woman's sex. In other words, a woman who does not conform to the stereotypes expected of her is deemed less womanly. She'll face punishment, at times physical, verbal, or emotional, to rectify this. Most women are aware of this, which is why so many identify as non-binary or trans-masculine in an attempt to subvert this. They feel that if they no longer use the label woman, they'll no longer be beholden to the gender imposed on them. When gender nonconforming women refuse to transition or otherwise give up womanhood, non-binary and trans-identified women see the path they have not taken and respond to the jealousy by attempting to force her to conform. Under the guise of tolerance, they do not push femininity on her, though they will often still pressure her via ignoring her womanhood, but instead claim that she's using the wrong label. Surely, being male fits her more. After all, why else would she give up the oppression trans activists center womanhood around? After all, what else can they use to separate women from men when they refuse to acknowledge sex? The punishment gender nonconforming women face for being gender nonconforming leads many to take on other labels, thus making TIFs jealous of gender nonconforming women who are happy in their own skin and strong enough to take it. TIMs remain upset because gender nonconforming women will always be female, no matter what. And unlike those who bow to gender ideology and change their identities rather than defend their personality and personal expression, gender nonconforming women don't play along with the delusion of clothing or personality being related to sex. Of course, being female and homosexual and ardently opposed to gender ideology also centers gender nonconforming women as being enemies of the ideology, and part of several groups which face the ire of trans activists. It is for this reason that the continual public presence of gender nonconforming women is so important, not just for showing other women that escape from femininity and happiness and doing so is possible, but to illustrate the illogic in defining women by femininity, which is not a requirement for being a woman. Only being female is. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I would consider myself a butch lesbian. I don't necessarily think there's anything special about wearing t-shirts and sweatpants because they're comfortable clothing. But in doing so, I often get criticized, especially for criticizing trans ideology. Well, you don't look like a woman, so how are you going to criticize trans people for being trans if you don't look like a woman either? I'm still female no matter what clothes I wear. It doesn't matter if I put on a fake mustache. It doesn't matter if I have short hair. It doesn't matter if I'm wearing clothes from the men's section. None of that changes that I have 2 X chromosomes, no Y chromosome, that I am female and will always be female. And this makes people so mad because they want to believe that, well, you have to be a man if you're masculine. And if you can be a woman who is quote unquote masculine, then their whole ideology just crumbles. And Lord, it's so easy to see how aggressive this is when you lay it out like that. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.